Welcome to the Campfire Curmudgeon podcast. This is Nicholas Jones. Heidi is not joining me because she has the sniffles, so this is just going to be our 2017 LA Podfest guest show. On the show, we had the opportunity to talk with three different guests. Perla Caballero-Hoblit, Movies Made Me host Cheryl Jones, and comedy film nerds and LA Podfest head honcho Graham Elwood. Each interview is pretty. We had a lot of fun with all three different guests, different stories that meant a lot, and just the what they had to tell us. Some of it gets pretty deep and maybe a little bit heavy with in terms of just remembering family. Perla talked about her mom. Cheryl talked about her experiences that led her to kind of the path she's on now and the career that she has. And Graham talked about a moment from his adolescence and his upbringing that, like, it stuck with him and it never went away, and it was kind of inexplicable, but it still meant a lot to him. So I do hope you have a good rest of your week. It's been a pleasure saying hi to you. Keep the campfire burning.
Okay. All right. Well, here we are at LA Podfest 2017. This is a special episode of the Campfire Curmudgeon.
I was like, who are we? Tell them who we are.
I am Nick, the Campfire Curmudgeon, and Heidi is the Campfire. And
I'm
joining us
Campfire.
is the infamous Perla X Caballero-Hoblit.
Hoblit, but thank
Hyphen
you.
Hoblit.
I just to, listeners to not think I'm super rude, I pronounce the hyphen for many reasons. One, it's $10,000 because that's how much my wedding costs. And two, it throws people off to make them think I'm really rich or sophisticated because it really helps me, get past that. If the first last name, Caballero, didn't tell you anything, I am Latino living in Trump's America. Let's just say it's a really interesting world right now.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
It's part of the inspiration to do a show about bullshit and calling bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like when, I think when we spoke in the hallway and you guys were explaining to me, we talk about UFOs and stuff like that. Okay, I spent one night in New Mexico and I fucking believe in UFOs after that one night.
Okay, tell us about it.
So I was driving my parents, instead of flying, because it was cheaper back then, instead of flying to Mexico City, we would drive to Mexico City because gas was like 89 cents back then a gallon. And so we had to spend the night in a rest area so my parents could sleep for a little bit. And, there's a lot of energy, and it's been proven in New Mexico that there's a lot of activity. They're not even paranormal, but there's always this other category. And of course, it's famous for Area 51. But when I was looking out my window of the station wagon and I saw light patterns that didn't light up, they were making shapes, and I don't know airplanes that could fly that fast, you really start to believe that, yes, there is something else, but the way you hear people describe it to you, like people who don't go out and go on Donahue and Sally Jesse Raphael and tell you about their, experiments that were performed on it, you sense that there could be potentially other visitors. I don't think they're going to be around for a while because they're just watching us and like, yeah, we're good. We're just going to move on to the next one.
We haven't passed the test
Yeah,
yet.
they're like, we're just going to, we are the intelligent life form. Thanks, humans. But I think, and I talked about this to you once, so my mother passed away when I was 21, and I've had to experience adulthood without my mother, including all my other siblings. I'm the oldest of 8 who've had to go without our mother. So I've been married, I graduated college, my other siblings, one of my brothers went to war. And so in Mexican culture, and also in Aztec culture that we are identifying with, we believe that once the spirits cross, they stay with us. And not in the guardian angel aspect, because seriously, if my mom was my guardian angel, she'd be very disappointed in some of the life choices I've made. Like, every time I got shit-faced, I bet you she was like, great, good job, honey. So glad you're at least holding up your hair right before you barf. And bet you regret sleeping with that guy, don't you? So the night before, I got married in a venue that had a lot of paranormal activity, like it's been on shows, and there's energy in there, because when I first walked in, I'm like, there's extra people here. And my parents, even though I was living with my husband, my parents still made us sleep in separate bedrooms the night before.
Funny.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not even wearing a white dress. Come on, let's hold the illusion down. And so my maid of honor and I were sleeping on what's called a emperor-size bed, and that's like 2 queen sizes put together.
That's awesome.
So we were laying down, and then all of a sudden we could hear footsteps, like high heels, like nervous high heels walking back and forth the hardwood floors.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
And so the more I was getting conscious, the more the heel step would intensify. And then my maid of honor and I were kind of sleeping side by side, and we kind of looked at each other, and she was kind of afraid, and she was ready to talk, and I stopped her. And then I was just like, shh, wait. And then I could hear the footsteps, and then I just kind of looked up, and I was like, don't worry, Mom. I'm okay. It's fine. I'm okay. Don't worry about this. And then the footsteps stopped.
Oh, wow. So you knew.
I knew it was her, and this is why I knew it was her. The night before I went on my first date with my husband, I had a dream, and she always appears to me in my dreams. Like, it's like when she visits me, I know it's important. And so I was sitting in a room, and she was putting me in a dress. And you probably understand what it's like to get ready with a parent, especially you as a woman, just growing up like, don't wear this, wear this. And then they're trying to give you life lectures, and you shouldn't wear that because of this. And there's always a moral to the story, like, don't wear red lipstick because people think you're a whore, or stuff like that. Or don't wear white after Labor Day. And so this time she was helping me get dressed, and I was slightly arguing, doing what most children or teenagers do, which is like, Mom, fine, yes, no, don't worry about that. And so then I got in this dress, and then she hands me elbow-length white gloves and puts them in my hands, but pulls on them and says, don't get these dirty. And I woke up.
Oh, my gosh.
And the next night you went on
A date with my husband. And then, he hates when I tell this story, but that night things could have happened, but something told me, like, I shouldn't do this. And I grabbed my shoes and, like, ran out of his apartment.
Oh, my God.
And so then he, like, chased after me. He's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, like, push you in boundaries that you didn't want to. I'm like, no, it's okay. Normally, trust me, if this was different, we'd be, like, fucking, but I just can't do this right now. Like, I'm really sorry. Like, I want to. And then he realized that, like, okay, she has a mind of her own.
It wasn't me.
It was just her. And so on my wedding day, I did wear elbow-length gloves.
Nice.
That's
That's
so
a
sweet.
beautiful story.
Yeah. And then recently, I told you this, I had a tea leaf reader on my birthday.
Yes.
And she's like, well, I feel like a motherly presence. I'm like, yeah, I know who that is. That's duh. She's like, but I have this person, and I say person because I can't identify them. It's a man or a woman. They kept shifting on me. I'm like, what race is that person? She's like, oh, that person's black. I'm like, yeah, that's my drag mother that died, who was a Whitney Houston, like the best drag queen performer. And that's when I realized I had an extra spirit. Because there's times when, I spent adulthood without my mom, and I had my drag mother kind of pick up the pieces, and that's why I call her my drag mother.
Yeah.
But I referred to myself as the prom date because she never referred to me as one of her children in drag culture. She sure as hell protected me like a mother.
Yeah, I think she passed away right after you and I met.
Yeah, she passed away 2 years ago, and it was very hard. I mourned for her as hard as I did my mother. And I miss her, and every time I hear Whitney Houston, I always think of her, or her talking shit under her breath about the really bad drag queens. Like, did you see that dress? Did you see that dress? And so I really do believe that there are spirits. Like, this place is pretty fucking active.
absolutely.
Yeah, we were in the Millennium Biltmore Hotel.
Yeah.
And
We were just
Heidi
talking
was just
about
doing
that.
some research. What was some of the things that you saw?
Well, I had thought that I remembered that Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, that she had supposedly been seen here shortly before she died, and I did see some reports of that. So I don't think this was the last place she was seen, but this was one of the places that she did frequent.
Yeah, and also there is a lot of stuff because it wasn't reported, but during Prohibition, there might have been deaths in bathtubs that were done, and back then you just paid a couple people in. But this place is pretty active. Downtown LA has a lot of activity. And then last night when I was walking in the hallway, I felt a couple extra bodies were around me, and I was like, this is kind of weird. And then the room I'm staying in, we've been having electricity problems, and that's usually the first dead giveaway that people are here. Yeah, and so then Yeah, and so I just pulled out my protection saint, and then that shit knocked off. So if that doesn't, that Catholicism, if that doesn't, but it helps. I think. Like, have you ever witnessed or gone to the Winchester Mystery House?
I have not, but that's definitely on our list.
No.
We talked about the Winchester Mystery House in our first episode, I believe, in our pilot episode.
Yeah, so for those of you that are not aware, this is the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California. This is Lady Winchester, who is the widow of the Winchester Empire, and she died without a child because she died of young age, and her husband had died, and she went to a clairvoyant, person who said, you need to build this house constantly, and you need to not sleep in the same room because the spirits of, the people that were killed by the gun are going to find you. And keep in mind, the Winchester gun is what really helped them win many of the slaughtering of Native Americans because it was in the West.
She supposedly felt very guilty for this.
Yeah, and so when she lost her daughter, especially, that's when so this room is built like craziness.
Yeah, she spent a massive amount of her fortune rebuilding
this house,
tearing it down, building it.
Yeah,
the inside is just.
There's this beautiful Tiffany windows that faces south, and so there'll never be any sun that faces it. Because it's those. Yeah, it's intense. We went to the room where she allegedly was found in, and I whispered to my husband, like, "Yeah, she didn't die here. I'm not like they're lying to us." But then they take you to the seance room, and then they close the doors on you. And let's just say when we got the doors closed, I could feel people touching me.
That's amazing.
And it was like, even my husband was like, okay, then my neck hairs are like really, and it was cold in there. Keep in mind, that house is not air conditioned, so how in the hell is it like icy frosty like some of these rooms are?
Your husband, Brian, is he more of a skeptic?
He's very much a skeptic, but he does believe in like spirits that guide us because he has, he's been around me when, I'll tell him like, oh, did you feel that? And he's like, no, but I felt the temperature change. And so he's very skeptical. He's an atheist. Like, he doesn't believe in religion, but he's more of a Guadalupano. He loves the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe. We've been blessed by the priests there, and we've climbed to the top where she's appeared. And we've seen the Tillman. He sees it. He touches it. He knows it's real. But as far as, like, his faith into Catholicism, like mine, which I keep very private. I mean, this is a paranormal activity podcast. This is probably the most private I've been more public I've been about my religious beliefs.
Right. We did an episode about lost family members, like family members that passed away. We can't help but butt into that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it doesn't fit quite in the same, like, Bigfoot is something you can joke about.
Right. Bigfoot lives in Oregon. He has some really dank weed because I bought a Sasquatch pre-roll about a couple weeks ago, and that shit was awesome. Thanks, Sasquatch.
Yeah, but you can't do that with, like, Grandma.
No, you can't. I mean, you can have Grandma's pie.
Right.
Pie is made with love. One of the things, it's just like, Grandma's pie. Like, we all have this memory of, like, a family member that passes away, and let's say it's Grandma's pie, and this pie is so delicious, but you love the idea that your grandma made this with love, and you try and reproduce it as best as you can.
Yeah, and
it doesn't work, but then at the same time, you need to be ready to go, well, this isn't Grandma's pie. This is my pie now.
Of Grandma's pie, yeah.
Right, and I'm going to make it with love, and I'm going to make it for you, and we're going to keep this memory going. It's simple things like that. Or, for example, I don't know if you guys have ever talked about La Llorona.
Yes, we haven't talked a ton about it on the episode I did by myself.
Okay.
The Weeping Woman.
About it briefly, yes.
Yeah, so I was raised with, I swear, La Llorona is the best bedtime story to tell your kids to never leave the house. So La Llorona, the legend has it, is she killed her kids and then threw them in the river. Yeah. And a spirit or an angel, it just depends what region. There's a lot, like, she had biracial children with a white man, because this was also during the Mexican-American War. And so a lot of hatred towards Americans, and we're right back at square one all over again. Thanks, Trump. When Peña Nieto is at 4% popularity rating, and he stands up to Trump and he goes up by 2 points overnight, that tells you, like, that. Yeah, so she kills her children, and then either the Archangel Gabriel or Jesus or Mary or someone comes and appears to her and says, "Where are your children?" And she's like, "Oh, they're playing, and she lies, and she's like, "Well, they're not here. They ran away." And he's like, "You're right, because they're with me, and you have to find them for the rest of your life, and you can't enter heaven or hell until you find your children. So they say La Llorona means the weeping woman or the crying woman. And so they say at night you can hear a woman screaming, mis niños, like crying for her kids.
Children.
And there have been confirmed sightings of her all the way up to some parts of, I think like the highest sighting that's been recorded has been Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Like
Because she's supposed to just wander.
she wanders all of up and down North and South America.
I always think it's funny in like these mythic stories where they're confronted with a spirit or an entity that is like all-knowing.
Right.
Right?
And they still lie.
And they still lie. It's like
Right.
it's like when
Why would
God
you
comes
lie?
down and he asks Cain where Abel
Blaze, and he's like, I don't know.
Am I my brother's keeper? And it's like, dude, I see everything.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
what
yeah.
do you think?
like, you totally just killed your brother.
I saw you do that.
Well, with that legend, I've also heard that sometimes she appears with the head of a horse. Have you heard that version?
That's a different version, and I think because she
Yeah.
tried to play off that the horse was like,
Something-
yeah, because she tried to like ride a horse, and then like they killed her horse,
Yes.
and so it really morphs.
It does.
But
I've
they're
heard
the
different
highest active
versions.
activities in Texas off of El Rio Grande.
That's right.
And the reason why I think that happens is because a lot of people unfortunately do die crossing
Crossing that
illegally,
right
or a lot of, this is another thing, but cartel activity. That's where they
There's
dump a lot of the
also-
bodies.
Right.
And there is a belief in many cultures and religions that a body that is murdered, if it's not laid to rest properly,
Yeah.
wanders the earth. And so, if you notice, like in any like psychic show or mystery murder show, you notice the ghost goes away once they solve the murder is because
Yes.
they've been vindicated and validated and they're finally being put to rest, which
Finally
means
the rest.
ultimately means be put to rest. You are finally at
They can finish
peace.
their time here on
They
Earth.
are done and they can go into whatever, Mormon, believes in the seven gods, or, I believe in heaven. Judaism believes in like other visions.
Right, that's
They-
the reason why, like, in the Jewish faith, they sit Shiva.
Yeah, they have Shiva.
Like,
You sit for 7 days to
Yes.
mourn that loss. And so with La Llorona, I remember my mom, and, everyone, I have a lot of Latino friends, and everyone's like, yeah, I noticed my mom told me La Llorona when I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
And what do you want to do when you're a teenager? You want to run out. You want to do this.
Uh-huh.
And I grew up near a river. I always feel I need to be connected by water. Always, always, always. I tried to live in Nevada and I left in 2 weeks. I'm like, I can't handle this. Like,
No.
I need to be near, I can walk. I think you've seen me post like the photos I take when I live close to a river. I
Yeah.
need that motion body of water to be near me at all times. And so I didn't even think about the fact that I always have this connection to water until my stepmother was like, oh, you live next to the river. You're not afraid of La Llorona anymore? I'm like, I stopped thinking about that bitch, but thanks for bringing her up.
Like, well, now that you mention it.
I'm like,
Tonight's going to be a nightmare night.
yeah, exactly. My biggest nightmare has always been the ones that scare me the most is being pulled away from my family and not being able to find them. Those are the ones that really rattle me and make me feel afraid because I'm very close to my family. I love my dad who's alive, and
Yeah.
I almost lost him, and I love him to pieces.
Oh,
And so it's just that whole fear of, and that's what a nightmare is, to pull your weakness, and my weakness is my love for my family.
Definitely. Well, I think it's also probably a definite strength then. I mean,
Yeah.
You said, weakness. I would say I would call it a vulnerability.
Right. That's
Right.
where I'm most vulnerable,
Yeah.
is where, like I've had my life threatened now by a white supremacist, and it hurt me more to tell my husband what had happened to me
Yes.
than me thinking about, wow, that just happened.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Thanks, Bush. Thanks, Trump. And I say thanks, Bush, because no, really, thank you, President Bush. I thought you were a horrible president. Now I really just regret those 8 years of fighting you.
Oh, man, yeah.
All right. Well, I definitely want to thank you for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I know this is the mini version. We could have gone into more in depth, but we can do it another time.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
No
And
problem.
What's the next show you're going to?
Love it or leave it.
Yeah, it's us too.
Yeah.
Where can we find you online?
You can always find me at my Twitter,
Yeah.
PX Caballero, Caballero. It's also my Instagram.
With the 280 characters, if you get that, are you going to add the hyphen Hoblit?
No.
Spell out
No.
hyphen?
No. Yeah, spell out the hyphen. At the Social Security office, they asked me if they wanted to spell out the hyphen. I'm like, no, dingbat, why do I want to make my name
That's
even longer?
fantastic.
And then she's like, no, people actually do that. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, I'm sorry. They're the dingbat. And she winged at me.
Ah.
Yeah, or, I'm still trying to produce my podcast, Lipstick Over Manhattan. just it's a conversation podcast because I love talking to people, and we drink either tea or Manhattan.
Horrible at it, by the way.
I'm horrible. I don't let the other person speak.
Oh, no.
I just buckle down when they ask me a question like, me? What do you want to know about me?
You're like, no, I'm asking you the questions here.
And, I say we drink out of teacups because sometimes people don't want to drink or I don't want to drink.
Yeah.
And we just have a conversation. And I ask the same question over and over, and you can go from there.
Where can they find that podcast?
It's coming out soon. I plugged it.
Soon?
Coming out soon. I made some, and they sounded horrible. And then I lost the files, but I found them, and then they came back horrible.
All right.
But we're working on it. So anyway. So, yeah. All righty.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, darlings. Have a great day. Bye.
Do I have to tell a story?
If you have one.
Oh, Jesus. Stories, real life experiences of ghost aliens, missing time.
Is there anything?
Well, I have missing time, but it's 100% explainable. So,
well, let's hear it. All right, we are here with Movies Made Me host Cheryl Jones. Welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you. I'm glad to be on. I'm not sure I have a good enough story for you. I'm a little worried now.
You know, we take everybody, so.
Okay, good. You take bad stories and good. That's a relief.
We take all the stories.
We take the bad, we take the good, and then something that.
I know there's a song in there, and I don't know how it goes. Thankfully, I don't know how it goes.
So you experienced missing time?
Yes, but as I told you before we started recording, it is 100% explainable.
Okay.
So I feel like this is not a good enough story. It's not the kind of story you'd tell around the campfire. Well, I guess you might regale your friends with your past incidents. Yes, I had missing time. And it was a very weird experience to have it because it was, good Lord, what year was that? 1994.
Okay.
On my way to work one morning, I had a pretty nasty car accident. And I kind of woke up about 5 hours later.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I had been up and operating the entire time because I had a really bad concussion that lasted in total about 5 days, where I couldn't remember anything for more than 3 seconds at a time, But, yeah, apparently I had the accident. I think I fell asleep and drove into an intersection on a red light is what happened.
Wow.
And so somebody coming the other way, hit me and turned my car all the way, like 180 degrees around. And I hit it was an old Datsun 210, like a 91 Datsun 210. It was like 10 years old at the time. And that doesn't even figure out an 81 Datsun 210. And so it was kind of a crappy car where the roof of the car was like a half an inch off my head as it was.
Yeah.
And then it was old, and so the car hit me right behind my seat. Luckily, not any sooner because it probably would have killed me. But I just had bruises and stuff. I wasn't other than the concussion, wasn't hurt badly. But the seat came unbolted from the floor because it was kind of weird anyway, and so I just basically slammed my head up into.
Oh, that's awful.
At least that's what they tell me. I don't know. I didn't even know my car was facing the opposite direction until I got the police report a month later.
Wow.
But yeah, so apparently the police came and the paramedics came. I had just had a little glass in my arm, and they took care of me. They had me call my mom. It wasn't far from home, so I used a payphone. It was back then. And then they set me down on a little crate in a mini mart right there. My mom said she came down. There was no sign of the accident. She had no idea where I was. She finally found me, took me to the hospital because of the way I was talking. I didn't talk as much then as I do now, but I've evolved. But because I was rambling on, she's like, something's not right here. So she took me to the hospital and
so your mind was in a completely altered state because of the concussion.
I was talking. I have no memory of what I said, and so they checked me out. They're like, yeah, just she's okay. It's not going to be she's not going to fall asleep and die, but but my mom said I kept there was some young woman in the emergency room, and I kept saying, I know you, and she was like, no, you don't. I don't know you. And she's like, I was like, no, I know you. She said, I kept insisting that I knew.
Oh my God.
I said, but how did, maybe I did know her and she didn't know me. Maybe I recognized her from somewhere, but I've had people do that to me. But yeah, she took me home and gave me a shower. I remember one little tiny bit of the shower.
Right.
And then she put me in bed, and then I literally, like 5 hours after the accident, I woke up mid-sentence. I was in bed talking.
Yeah.
That's gotta be
So it's just a function of memory. Like, you were fully functional, but
Yes.
the memory wasn't.
Yes.
Wow.
And but I am a person who really likes control.
Yeah.
And so
That's
this
terrifying.
whole thought of 5 hours of talking, and I have
You have no idea.
Yes, I have no clue what I said. Like, what deep, dark secrets did I let out that I don't know?
Yeah, it's
That
like-
nobody wants to tell you. They're never going
Right.
to tell you
Yeah,
what you
it's like-
said.
It's been a long time since I've been blackout drunk, but
Right.
I can imagine. Like, you're just like,
What, a
oh,
week?
oh, hi. I've been in control this weekend.
That's very good. Congratulations.
But yeah, that's scary. I actually had a similar experience where I was turning left and I had a head-on collision with a truck. I was in a
Oh,
little.
God.
This was around 2000-ish or so. I was driving a little 1990 Toyota Tercel, so it was about the same size car.
Right.
And I head on with a pickup truck.
Wow.
The pickup truck was scratched. My car was totaled.
Right.
But I don't remember the impact. I don't remember anything
Yeah,
until
yeah.
I opened my eyes and my head was being like held back against the car seat.
Oh, wow.
Because somebody on the sidewalk watched me just take a truck to the face.
Right.
And,
Thank goodness they did something.
and they were holding my head back just to keep my my neck stable.
Yeah, just in
And
case,
they
yeah.
got me in the hospital, and I'm like, I feel weird, but I feel okay. I guess I had a mild concussion.
Yes.
Because I blacked out for like the 5 or 10 seconds, where it's just like, I don't remember it at
Yeah.
all.
It's so weird
I
to
remember
think.
seeing like the grill of the truck, and then the next thing I know, I was in a completely different.
Yeah, I don't
like-
remember the accident at all. I
Yeah.
don't remember like where on the street I might have fallen asleep
Yeah.
or like what, I know I didn't drive out on a red light on purpose on a
No.
major intersection, and I've never been back to that mini mart, by the way, just in case
Just
it's
in
been
case you
like
were, like,
ages. I'm like, I will
crazy.
never go in there
Mine
again.
was literally like 3 blocks from my childhood home, and we
Yeah.
didn't live there at the time. But it
Yeah.
was just like, wow, this intersection has always sucked.
Yeah. I'm like, I have to drive through it a lot,
Yeah.
but I'm like, and I finally am past the like fear of going through it. I had a little bit of that where it's like, it just felt really weird. I'm past
Yeah.
that, but yeah, I'm never going in that mini mart again. But, I'm sure they would never even recognize me now. But I'm like, nope. And,
And you're like, no, but I do know you.
yeah. Good callback.
I insisted. I know you're a huge Ghostbusters fan. You're wearing the
I
necklace.
am
You've got it on the
indeed.
bag.
Yes.
Any belief in the paranormal?
Not really,
Uh-huh.
but I mean, I would say I don't believe in that. But at the same time, if something really weird happened, I mean, everybody has things,
Sure.
right? So like, my sister once told me about something that she experienced in the house, and I had something kind of similar where both of us, it was in the hallway by the bedrooms, and she said that one time she was walking down the hallway and actually felt like she felt the need to move to the side so somebody could pass her the other way.
Yeah.
And then I just had occurrences in there where I just felt like somebody was like walking behind me, or like
You
there was
just felt like
something. Yeah.
Is it
And-
a family home? Like.
yeah, I still live there, but I don't
Wow.
have that
Right.
anymore. But then every once in a while I think, well, because my mom had cancer and we had hospice care for her in the house.
Oh yeah.
And so I kind of feel like, if this stuff is real, which again I don't really believe in, but if it's real, maybe when she died in the house, she got rid of whatever it was
Right.
that
Oh,
was
wow,
already there.
yeah.
I don't know.
Could be.
I have
I-
no
Hey.
idea. I know,
But there's there isn't like one thing I keep hearing in these stories, and I'm the skeptic.
Yeah.
I don't believe in ghosts, but at the
Right.
same time, I can't deny people's their experiences.
Right.
Because we all have the kind of like pre-programmed micro behavior of how.
She's really trying to get you to
of-
get closer to that
of-
mic.
of
You've
how-
got, if you're going to be a
Talk
podcaster,
into
man,
the
you've got to
mic.
know how this works.
And it's how we like walk, how we actually interact with each other, walk through a crowd, recognize who's around, like basically where your space is,
Yes.
and where you are in that space.
Yes.
And that's something where it's like, if that's programmed into us, something that makes us feel like we move, it's like we're detecting it, right?
Yes, what is that?
Yeah.
What causes that?
And I think that's fascinating. And
Yeah.
I think that I'm not ready to say like there's nothing there. There's nothing
Right.
There
That's the thing is I don't want to say for sure because there's no way for anybody. I mean, that's the thing. Like I know people who are very religious. I know people who are atheists.
Mhm.
and I've had people say that, I had an instructor at a community college once who said that he feels very sad for people who are agnostic because they can't make up their minds. And I, to this day, regret that I didn't take him to task for that in class, because that's not what it is. It's people who are agnostic recognize you cannot know either way.
More open-minded.
Molly
Yes.
Valeriano has the same joke.
Does he?
we saw him at the Improv in June, and he mentioned any Christians here? Blah, blah, blah. Makes a Christian joke. Any agnostics here? And I clapped twice. He's like, how could you make up your mind about how to come here? And I'm just like, all right, cheap joke.
Right. Yeah, because it's not fair to say, you can't make up your mind. It's like, no. I know that there's no possible way for any human being to actually, with certainty, know either way.
Yeah.
So
Those
I'm
that
like,
pretend they do are kind of a turnoff.
yeah,
right?
and I'm like, everybody do your thing, and if it makes you happy and you're not hurting other people with it, go for it. Whatever gets you through life, I don't need either side of it. So
that's awesome. Tell us a bit about your show. You have a show called Movies Made Me.
I do. You can find it in all the usual places, iTunes and all. Well, I'm sorry, we call it Apple Podcasts now, and Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and at mmmpodcast.com.
Okay.
And it's about the movies that have influenced you to be you.
Okay.
So I have a guest each time, and they talk about 5 movies and 3 other things, anything under the sun, that have influenced them to be them.
What are some unexpected ones you've heard recently?
Oh gosh. Unexpected ones. That's hard. Like Brendan, who's here in the podcast lab this weekend, he did a movie called Angus that I had never heard of.
I've never heard of that,
It's like 1994, 95.
Yeah.
It's with Ariana Richardson from Jurassic Park.
Right, yes.
And a heavy guy. And it's basically kind of a teenage coming-of-age love story where the heavy guy has a crush on the pretty girl, and it works out.
Yeah.
So it's a very sweet movie.
Yeah, and it was just kind of how that kid had dealt with bullies and all of that kind of stuff. And for Brendan, that kind of gave him the ability to deal with the bullies that he was dealing with at school. And he said he would come home and watch it every day, and it really inspired him. And that's the thing, is more than a lot of the movies are surprising. I have a whole list. If you go to the website, you can download. There's a
you have
page.
Like a spreadsheet with the frequency of the same movie.
Well, there's a page where you can look at any movie that's been mentioned more than once.
Okay.
And then there's a spreadsheet you can download that shows every single movie that's been chosen.
Okay.
So it's over 275 movies
Do you have
now.
the most common one that people bring up?
Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, 100%. At first on the show, that and Jaws were kind of going back and forth. Jaws has kind of stopped, and Star Wars is far and away the leader.
Because they're not making more Jaws movies.
Yeah, that could be part of it. Thank God they're not, because the others were so awful.
I think it's about right. I think Universal could reboot it.
Don't
don't
do that.
No, I don't.
Don't
want
even
to.
put that out there in the world.
Listen,
don't put that suggestion out there.
The Blade Runner just came out, and I heard
Yes.
it's excellent.
You haven't
I have
seen
heard
it
that.
yet.
But it's being made by one of the best working directors.
I've heard it's really good.
Yeah.
All the
What are
reviews
you
and
doing?
everybody I know who's seen it really liked
I'm
it.
putting the mic in your
She's-
mouth so I can hear you.
Okay. We're going to do some
In
editing
this
on this
environment,
one.
you cannot be far away from the mic. Good Lord, learn your podcasting, man.
Yeah, I've been doing it about a year. We still have a lot of work to do.
I get it. We all learn as we go. Your nails are amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
Heidi's nails will be on our Instagram.
As well they should be.
But yeah, Movies Made Me.
Yes.
We can find you on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, Stitcher.
All the places.
Anywhere you search. Definitely check that out.
Yes, your favorite podcasting app.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Cheryl. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We're here with Graham Elwood on the Campfire Curmudgeon.
Hello.
Graham is primarily responsible for LA Podfest, as far as I know.
Well, there's me, it's Dave
Dave,
Anthony's idea, and Chris Mancini. Yeah, so a bunch of three, and then we have a fourth guy. It's sort of a Simon. Yeah.
I've interacted a lot with Simon on the Facebook group.
Oh, great.
But yeah, Graham, we would like to know: do you have any? What is your background on scary stories, or do you ever
paranormal
had, a
stuff,
haunting
supernatural
or
things?
Seen a UFO? I mean, you live in Santa Monica, so.
Seen a lot of people with parrots on their shoulder in Venice Beach. I've seen that. I don't know if that counts for what you guys are talking about.
That might count.
Yeah.
I don't have any UFO sightings.
Okay.
I don't have any.
Well,
ghost things, but supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of experiences. So I played high school football.
Okay.
It was a big, I was like, whatever, I'm 15, 16. It's a big deal. It's the most important thing in my life at that time. And I remember two different things happened. Once I had a dream about a specific score, and it happened.
Oh, wow.
And now I would have a lot, it felt different because I would have a lot of what I would just call anxiety dreams or, like.
Late to class, naked.
Right. I have that. Still, once every couple of years, if I'm really stressed, I'll have a high school football anxiety dream.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, it's game day, here we go, and I can't find the stadium. It's like Spinal Tap.
Coach is gonna read me.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I hear the fans cheering, and I'm like, where the fuck? How do I get on the field? Like, so I would have those in high school, but then I had a dream with a specific score, and the next day the score happened.
That's amazing.
Which was crazy. And I dated someone that was computer skeptic, and they're like, oh, that's nothing. I go, all of the score probabilities. That, like, mathematically, it's a little crazy to think that would just happen.
Yeah, we were just interviewing with Cheryl, and it's like one of those things where, as a skeptic, it's like I can't deny someone their experience.
Right.
And the fact, like, I don't know what that is.
If I had a dream that we just won, and I'd be like, see, I predicted. It'd be like, no.
It was like 24-17. And
yes.
Yeah,
it was like 20-6.
Yeah.
And I was like, we won 20, and especially in football.
Right.
So there's
so many different permutations.
There's two missed extra points, like just shit that's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So as you were playing, were you like watching the score, trying to see, or did you not notice it till
I wasn't paying attention, and then when the game ended, I looked up and went, like I didn't, when I had the dream, I didn't go, oh, this is going to be this. I just sort of like, oh, whatever, like.
When you've had some dreams, was this one in color versus others in black and white?
This was in color. I think all my dreams are in color, I think.
So I know some people that say, like, oh, my dreams come true, but only if they're in color.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, okay.
I don't know that that's ever been true for me.
Okay.
And then there was a play, and that was my sophomore year of high school. And then I think my junior year of high school, I was on defense, and I was lining up to get ready to play before the offense broke from the huddle.
Yeah.
So I'm lining up against no one at this point,
And
I just go, in my head, I just go, oh, there's going to be a fumble right there. The ball's going to be right there.
Yeah, that's...
And it was a defense, I think they called a blitz, and the ball snapped. I rushed in. The ball was sitting right there.
Yeah, right there.
And I jumped on it.
That's kind of that theory where people talk about, like, the cloud, where there's, like, a cloud of information that people can access.
Probability. Basically, like a Heisenberg uncertainty principle, like the wave of all possibilities collapses into one, and maybe something in your brain was like, well, I don't know why, but it's going to happen there.
It could be, and again, I had.
Where does that come from? I'm not here to say. I know that it doesn't come from ghosts, or that it doesn't come from like God or your concept of whatever or fate. But it could be something. It's definitely an experience of something.
Right, and I think, like, again, I was dating someone that was like, oh, that's no, and I was like, again, I go, the probabilities of all of their whole playbook and our whole playbook.
And 100 yards to play with.
It's 100 yards to play
60
with.
60 minutes of play, yeah.
And that at this one moment, I was just coincidentally going to see a thing that
The football was going to be there.
Right
with
there.
No one touching it.
No one touching it.
There's
just
22 guys on the field.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing on the field.
Yes. Everyone wants it.
And there's 22 people that want it.
Everyone wants it, right?
Everyone wants it. So, and I think I was having the discussion with her and Chris Mancini, my co-host on Comedy Film Nerds, is definitely more of a science-minded person.
Right.
But he came with this sort of, didn't say specifically the Heisenberg thing that you're talking about.
Uncertainty principle?
But he just said, he goes, the reason explanation. It's, I think what turns science-minded people off is the ding-dong New Agers make it like, a fucking rainbow unicorn delivered the football on my chakra boat. And you're like, no.
And I know this with certainty, right? It's
and they say it with such certainty. You're like, you sound like a wingbird. So I think when they just go, hey, the universe made it happen. Yeah. Okay.
I would say, in my experience, the only thing I get superstitious about is baseball. I believe there are baseball gods. Like I believe, and
This is our curmudgeon's religion.
Well, I believe after being a Cubs fan after last year, I believe in them too. They finally woke the fuck up and gave us a.
I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan,
Okay.
but I don't begrudge them their victory. They earned it.
Right.
And I actually live 10 minutes from the new Cubs Stadium in Mesa.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, if you come out for spring training, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Are you a baseball fan?
No, but I like the hot dogs and the beer. Does that count?
Fantastic. Yes, it does.
But yeah, I think there are baseball gods, and they're as capricious as the Roman and Greek gods. They're just like, oh, you like that guy? Injury, or he's gonna go for 14. Like,
pay us tribute if you'd like to win.
Yeah.
Also, like the Cleveland went 22 game streak this year. It was insane. That's a record. But anyway, Graham, I don't want to take up all your time. I do want to thank you for hosting the entire festival and your show. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Hope you guys come back.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.